I and my wife are both 44 years old. We were 17 when we first met, and we became best of friends ever since then. We started dating a few years later when we were in our mid-20s. Eventually, we got married and have enjoyed a strong marriage for 18 years, spending a total of over 26 years together. During this time, we ran a successful business that allowed us to move around the country. While my wife supported me in the business, she mostly relied on my work for financial stability. I didn't mind, as I was brought up with the belief that men should be the primary breadwinners. Like any couple, we had our share of ups and downs. However, things took a difficult turn in 2015 when my wife's mother was diagnosed with cancer and passed away the following year. Just 9 months later, her father also passed away. In addition to these personal losses, our business faced challenges, and by late 2019, it ultimately failed, leading us to file for bankruptcy in early 2020. I felt really down throughout this whole ordeal, spending the subsequent years in a state of depression. The one thing I held on to as a positive aspect of my life was my marriage. However, as our business began to struggle, my wife took on a job to help us out. She ended up working at a large retail store and eventually got promoted to a managerial position. During this time, I gained a significant amount of weight. So now I find myself overweight, having lost my business and feeling at the lowest point in my life. When the pandemic escalated, I became quite isolated due to my concerns about having asthma. My wife, on the other hand, continued working throughout this period. She started working late hours, and on her days off, she would frequently go shopping at Target, which, considering the lockdowns, should have raised some red flags. One Sunday morning, she woke me up at 6 a.m. and told me she was going to the park to walk because her legs felt restless. It struck me as a bit odd, but I could relate to doing unconventional things to alleviate restless legs syndrome, as I sometimes walked on her treadmill in the middle of the night. A big deal, really. When she got back, we had breakfast, and she went to the shower. While I was in my office, working on my computer, she walked in completely without clothes, turned around to seduce me, and then headed to the bedroom, which naturally, I followed her. We've always had an active bed life. She wanted me to go down on her, but I noticed a strange odor, so I left the room, thinking maybe it was because she went for a walk at the park. Cheating on me was the furthest thing from my mind at that point, so I wasn't really concerned. But there was something nagging at me. The next day, I checked her browsing history and discovered she was on the Facebook pages of 2 guys whom I knew didn't work at her store. This worried me because she didn't have male friends who weren't coworkers. Another day goes by and my mind was still wandering. Then, on one night at 3 a.m., it hits me. I woke up and the thought of checking her phone worried me, but I lay back in bed for a while, debating whether I should even get up because I was tired. Finally, I grabbed her phone, not really knowing what I was looking for. Almost instantly, I saw Snapchat, which I didn't even know she had. She had 3 male friends, 2 of whom I saw her checking out on Facebook, and a guy she worked with. When she woke up, she asked if I'm okay, but I directly asked her if she was cheating on me, and she denied it. We talked for a few hours, and during the conversation, I discovered that I could download her Snapchat history, so I locked myself in our bathroom and proceeded to do so. She pleaded with me not to, admitting that she indeed cheated on me. At that instant, I felt my whole life shatter into pieces. I felt like she abandoned me at my lowest point when I needed her the most. She denied this, but the facts spoke for themselves. She threw it in my face that she's the one supporting us now, as if she forgot the first 17 years of our marriage when she didn't have to work and could shop freely. Oh, and now she claims she's not materialistic. Well, both of these guys are broke losers. One even borrowed money from my wife, but I'll get to that later. The other one lives in a rundown trailer owned by a relative because his credit is so terrible, so he couldn't rent his own place. He's also been arrested for Dewey more than a few times. I then messaged both guys on Facebook, calling them worthless and informing each of them about the other. Funny how they were upset that she was cheating on me with other people besides them. One of them didn't respond, but the one who borrowed money from my wife now wants to fight me. Just later on, I found out that he was obsessed with fighting me and kept telling my wife that he wanted to fight me. Then he gave her one more piece of news. He told her that he would not pay her back. With my head spinning from these events, I knew I needed help. I reached out to my old buddy, who happened to be a lawyer. He and I had been thick as thieves back in the day. Our parents were best pals, and we pretty much grew up together. Many of our best childhood memories involved running wild in our neighborhood and hanging out together throughout our teen years. It felt surreal turning to him now in such a grim situation. What floored me was his response. Knowing my financial struggles, he offered to help me out for free. It was an overwhelming moment. I hadn't expected such generosity, especially not in these tough times, so I worked with my lawyer friend to get all my ducks in a row. We had to carefully gather evidence of the infidelity, which was more emotionally taxing than I had anticipated. Every message I read was a fresh wound in my already hurting heart, but I calmed myself knowing that this was crucial for the legal process. With my friend's help, we meticulously compiled everything: text messages, phone call logs, social media interactions, into a comprehensive dossier. The more I delved into it, the more I realized how deep the betrayal went. It was evident that this affair wasn't a sudden mistake, but rather a calculated series of actions that spanned months, maybe even longer. Now, the objective wasn't merely getting a divorce, but also ensuring I retained my assets. You see, the house we lived in was something I'd worked my butt off for. It was more than a property. It was a symbol of the sweat and tears I poured into our now bankrupt business. The last thing I wanted was to lose it. Fortunately, my friend was a real pro. He guided me through the process, explaining how to protect my rights to the house and other properties we own. He was there for me not just as a lawyer, but also as a friend, providing emotional support during the turmoil. Within a few weeks, we had everything ready. We moved swiftly and served my wife with divorce papers. She was completely taken by surprise. She had no inkling of what was coming her way. I wish I could say I felt remorse seeing her in that state, but all I felt was a grim satisfaction. As the reality of the situation dawned on her, she went into hysterics. She fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, but I didn't flinch. I had already spent too many nights crying over her betrayal. It was time for her to feel the pain. When she realized she was about to be homeless, with no savings or financial security, the real panic set in. She tried pleading with me, begging me to reconsider, but I'd made up my mind. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Everything happened so quickly after that. Within a couple of weeks, she was out of my house. I changed all the locks, ensuring she couldn't get in again, and the last time she pounded on the door trying to get in. I called the cops, and they issued a restraining order against her. It wasn't an easy journey as I felt a lot of anger, betrayal, and grief. But throughout the process, I also found a new strength in me that I didn't know existed. My friend was right there with me. I was right there with me, helping me navigate through this rough patch, and I'm grateful for that. Today, I'm in a much better place, emotionally and mentally. I've learned to prioritize my happiness and peace, and I look forward to rebuilding my life one day at a time. Right after everything happened, I immediately started working out again. For the first 20+ years of our relationship, I used to work out almost every day. But when my depression started and I began taking antidepressants, I stopped exercising. So I've already lost some weight, and I'm in great shape now. And as for my wife, well, she made her choices, and she had to face the consequences. I don't harbor any ill feelings towards her anymore. It's more of indifference now. I've decided to move on, learn from this experience, and become a better and stronger person. After all, that's all we can do, isn't it? I heard that she's been having financial trouble and maxed out her credit cards. What's funny to me is that she actually expects me to help her with her taxes. She has a debt over $3,000. She emailed me, claiming that it's unfair for her to pay it all, because we were married for the first 5 months of the year of our divorce. Can you believe the audacity? She tried to justify all her terrible and soul-destroying actions, yet she thinks I should assist her in paying her taxes. It's clear that she has such little respect for me to even assume I would help. I've reached a point where I couldn't care less, so I didn't even bother replying and giving her the satisfaction of a response. Maybe I could have made a snarky comment, like, why don't you ask one of your boyfriends for help? Perhaps the one who borrowed money from you and never paid it back. It's actually quite amusing. Remember the guy I said she borrowed money to? Well, before our first D-Day, she lent our money to one of the guys she was involved with, but never got it back. Here's the kicker. Supposedly, he was supposed to repay her just a day or two after D-Day, but when she revealed that her husband, me, found out about their affair and they could never speak again, his interest in repaying vanished. He probably never had any intention of paying her back in the first place, but she believed they had something special, so she never thought he would lie to her. As for me, I'm working a job that I enjoy, and I've already started another business. I may be starting from scratch, but I feel like I'm on the path to happiness, even if I never meet someone else. So the main point I want to make with this is that in the past, just thinking about all this stuff would really get to me. However, since going no contact, I simply don't care anymore. I guess I can view it as her being fined $3,000 for making poor life choices,